Who says the genre of character action platformer is dead? While that certainly could have been said about 5 years ago, the resurgence of the genre now is kind of something to behold. The new wave of 3D action platforming seems to just be getting started, but if the early offerings are any indication, we are in for a new renaissance of Mario 64 knockoffs, and that's not entirely a bad thing. For this particular video, we're going to be looking at a newly released game on Steam called Poi. Now, the game has been kicking around in early access for a while now, and has shown some promising progress since that time. Having played an early build of the game a while back, I was a tad worried about the direction the game was taking. After all, so many developers use early access not for its intended purpose, but instead just release their final game there, and when negative criticism rolls in, they blame it on the game being in early access and adjust accordingly. Poi, however, used this system for its intended purpose and improved and implemented to the point where the game could be called complete. It never changed its core focus and simply added to the strong foundation until we had the version available for purchase today. The game's all about moving your character around in the 3D space to complete various challenges and tasks in order to earn Explorer medals. Think of these like shine sprites or stars in the 3D Mario games. The make or break mechanics in a game of this ilk are always the controls and weight of the character. It needs to feel responsive yet punish you for mistimed movements and jumps. It needs to feel like the character has weight but not so heavy that they feel cumbersome. Poi doesn't exactly nail this, but it's a very close facsimile that is more than serviceable. It seems unfair to compare Poi to the likes of Mario, when Mario has hundreds of developers and millions of dollars at its disposal. But when reviewing this kind of game, the comparison is almost mandatory, as that is the measuring stick that the developer themselves are holding the game up to. That's not to say the controls are bad in Poi. It's just that when you spend literally hundreds of hours controlling a character like Mario, any deviation from that control scheme, no matter how minor, is going to feel very, very odd. The worlds are built in such a way that the little idiosyncrasies of the player movement don't feel punishing. The areas are nice and open and don't punish you too much for the character controlling like a slightly janky version of Mario. While on the topic of environments, know that they aren't much to write home about. In games like Mario, the environments play just as much a character in the game as Mario himself. In Poi, it feels like each environment was just a checkbox on a list of platforming game tropes that the developer checked off. Easy first level that takes the appearance of a green pasture? Check. Ice level? Check. Fire level? Check. There's not a whole lot of imagination in the character or the environments themselves, but it's still serviceable enough to deliver a fairly enjoyable experience. While I'm still harping on the annoying differences from Mario, the coins don't restore health, and that seems like a rather large misstep when the game can be deceptively difficult. Let's see, more things to be mildly annoyed by. Oh, how about there doesn't seem to be a clear difference between friendly monsters and monsters that will hurt you when you first encounter them. To be honest, that's a super nitpicky one because it's a mistake you'll only make once per level. What else? The first boss fight manages to somehow be annoying and boring at the same time. Another thing is that you almost have to have played a 3D Mario game in order to know how all the movements work. Triple jumps, pivot turns, wall kicks, and Mario introduced to these mechanics via non-consequential level design. In Poi, however, you're just going to have to figure it out yourself. There is a fairly egregious frame rate hit whenever any kind of particle effect is spawned, but that might be due to the fact that I have the game installed on a secondary storage device. Still, it is rather annoying. Alright, with all the minor stuff behind us, my major complaint of the game is that it has an intense drop-off in personality. As I mentioned before in the review, the levels lack imagination, and that's a real shame because the first exposure to the game promises a lot of unique character and charm. It's almost like the developers started putting copious amounts of love and care into the game, and then quickly realized that they wouldn't be able to keep up the same level of quality throughout the entire game. And to be honest, that totally makes sense. As someone who's spent time making indie games myself, I can definitely tell you that after the first month or so, you really want to move on to the next project, but you also need to see it through and finish your game. That, and if they had kept up the same level of quality that's in that first section of the game, I get the feeling that it probably would have taken them another decade just to finish the dang thing. It's hard to tell, but my theory is that maybe Poi just wanted to get out in front of the upcoming Yooka-Laylee to make sure that it doesn't eat their lunch. It's difficult to be sure. While you likely couldn't tell by the review so far, I actually really liked Poi. It captures a lot of what made character action platformer games great in their heyday. It takes fun mechanics and uses them over and over again, each time in a very unique and fun way. Like using the Explorer parachute thing to move around? How about a timed obstacle course that uses it? Like the idea of the digging mechanic? How about a mission area where you can go and explore that mechanic and earn even more Explorer medals? There's loads of fun to be had in Poi, and honestly, that scratches the itch that many players have had regarding this genre of game. The music is fantastic, and the controller support is spot on. A big plus in its favor, and I can't believe I'm at the point whenever I have to count this as a major plus, the game is actually rock solid. I can Alt-Tab out, minimize all windows, keep it minimized for half an hour, and keep it running. Hell, I feel like I could throw my PC down a flight of stairs and the game would likely still keep running after I recover the shattered husk that is my PC. Now, a small caveat to this, it does seem to be kind of crashy if you have your controller already turned on whenever you launch the game, but that seems to be a recent development in a recent patch. Poi is a great experience that never tries to be more than a solid character action platformer game. It may not have the uber polish that we're used to seeing in Nintendo games of this ilk, but with such a small team that worked on Poi, I'd consider it a real triumph. Developer size, however, does not factor into reviews though. I'd still like to point it out though just because I do still consider it impressive. Price, however, does factor into my reviews, and with all the content that's packed into Poi, $15 seems like a steal. Buy it, love it, and look forward to the fantastic game that Poi 2 is sure to be. Thanks for watching, and have an awesome day.